Good evening, everyone. We'll take some time to let some folks roll in potentially. And I guess I'll say hi to Justin B. and Muffin Top. Muffin Top said he's out tonight, but he always tags along. He'll be in and out intermittent while he takes care of dad life stuff.
Mine just went
Justin,
down. So it stayed that way.
nice. We ran mine all over creation today. Dentist and other stuff.
Same. My boy ate 2 hot dogs and a whole hamburger today. He's a chunk.
Healthy one. Pat Rice said, "Heyo, Pat, you got a link if you want to join us." Yeah, I will not be able to gather my thoughts as eloquently as I'm not Honda. I can't just be verbose off the cuff. I I think much more elegantly than I speak. It seems. Well, at least in my mind, I think I do. I've
Same.
got some pretty strong opinions on all the Glock clones, good, bad, and indifferent. Oh, there he is. What up, Pat?
Not much.
You on the road again?
Just sitting here waiting. Shit's not ready.
Of course it's not.
Yeah, every time I get here early, it's not ready. But then when I'm running late, they call me and say, "Oh, it's been ready for a long time. Where are you?" So we're talking about Glock clones.
Yep.
My beef with Glock clones is that they're not Glocks. If they're not substantially cheaper than a Glock, then what's their purpose?
My
Well, that's
beef is
that's
the only good
definitely
Glock
part of it.
clone is the dagger, and I'm looking to trade mine off to get the new Glock.
There you go.
The only improvement that I kind of liked was when they changed the grip angle. Like I think the P80 started that. That's the only thing I kind of agree with.
I haven't shot a P80 that I didn't have a problem with running at least 3 mags, and it had a problem. I'm like, wow, this is crap.
Yeah, the first iterations of it, they had problems with the rails being out of spec. It's just like any other gun. Like, are you really upset that something that would take a machine shop and $100,000 worth of tools to make, you were able to make in your garage in like 20 minutes? Are you really upset that it's not flawless?
Yeah.
No.
And I don't know anybody that's like taking a P80 to war, or I do know some people that every day carry them, but if you vet the thing, 200 rounds with one or two malfunctions.
Well, that would be substantially more stoppages than I would want for something I were bet, you know, that I could have a Glock instead. You know
Yeah,
that.
it's that grip angle thing though. I mean, I don't know if you guys have run into it, but as me trying different firearms, I started with Glock. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dry fire with Glock, and every time I present any other pistol, my sights are off because I'm so used to that Glock grip angle.
Well, and that's where being dedicated to one gun over another becomes important. You know,
Yeah, I started
haven't.
with a revolver, so the Glock was actually like instinctual for me to shoot. And then I had like a Smith and Wesson 40 VDE was the first pistol I picked up, and then it was a Glock, and I've never ever went back because I've never had a problem with it.
And not to invalidate Pat's point about the sight's not pointing right, because I hear that all of the time, and I know that none of us get to shoot as much as we would like. I mean, even if like Rebel Spirit was here, I know he shoots a bunch, but I guarantee that he would tell you he wishes he could shoot more. You know, time, money, ammo, whatever the excuse, whatever the limiting factor. None of us shoot as much as we would like to. But the Glock doesn't point right for me thing. I mean, like that may be for the presentation, and then once you're out, you correct your sights and you're off to the races. Within a few draw presentations, like you're past that for that outing, you know, that range session or whatever. So Jaeger had a video on that years ago about that would be the same thing as if the guy said, "Oh, I can't, you know, I drive a Ford great, but you put me in a Dodge, and man, I'm just all over the road." Like that excuse only goes so far. You may be intimately familiar with one gun or one vehicle, how it
Right.
handles, how it presents, but to say that
I had a
either you can
1911
shoot or you can't.
Never Die guy, and he's like, I cannot hit anything with this. And I said, okay, show me how you shoot. And he pulled up his finger and he pointed with it. I said, it's because you're pointing with your finger. If you instinctually point the sights with your thumb, like put your thumb up alongside the gun and put your thumbnail basically over what you want to shoot, and you're going to shoot to the right of it. And he did, and he smoked it. He smoked a little 6-inch gong, and it folded over. He's like, wow. I'm like, yeah, you aim with your thumbs on a Glock, not with your pointer finger.
Yep.
It's the only way to do it.
Is it showing us live on the YouTube side?
Yeah,
I'm watching you on YouTube.
Okay. I was panicking because it was the first time I had set one for coming up or whatever, not just launching it live. So I wasn't sure. Cool. I guess it's everybody's off night tonight. Anyway, we can talk for ourselves and it'll just be saved here for posterity's sake. All right, I'll get
Did
into
you
it.
drop
We've
it in my
waited.
Discord lawfully?
I did.
Well, go drop it in Duke Liberty and Honda and Never Enough Ammo's Discord and wired tight.
I'm not worried about it. The people that want to find us will find us. I'm not worried about it. My single biggest gripe is the dust cover rail / trigger guard dimensions. If you're gonna clone a phenomenally well accepted, ubiquitous platform for all of its positive attributes, changing the fitment of it for holsters is stupid. That's
I
what Palmetto
100%
got wrong on
agree.
the dagger.
Yeah, Ruger sucks.
No, Ruger did it right. Ruger and Magpul were smart and copied the Glock dust cover rail from the Gen 3. And so it's, other than the suppressor height sights or the taller sights that come on the RXM slide, which may or may not fit your given model of holster, otherwise it fits all Glock holsters, while still having the more upright grip angle that Pat prefers. You know, it's got the 19 degree.
Actually, it's the other way around.
Okay.
I shoot Glocks well and nothing else well.
Okay. Well, it's got the more upright grip angle, that 19 degree grip angle or 18 degree grip angle, whatever degree, as opposed to the 21 degree of the Glock. So it points more like a 1911 or a SIG, while still having the Glock holster fit and the, you know, all the compatibility, the things that people change because they want to buy skill. All of that stuff is there. That ecosystem of internal parts, as far as triggers and whatnot, are there on the RXM. as long as
You need to
Magpul
let
and
me know when you get one of them new Glocks with the enclosed reticule from SHOT Show in, so I know real world price instead of MSRP.
yeah, with the Koa.
It's about
I don't know how
800 and
that'll go.
$1,000.
Yep,
I'm seeing the
in that ballpark.
43. I'm seeing the 43s listed for 800 pre-sale, and the larger frame pistol is about 1,000, 1,100, something like
I
that.
think with that, it's a duty grade, dot. You don't need an enclosed dot on like a 43 if you want to be small. I think honestly, I'd be fine without a dot on a 43 because the point of it is to be as small as possible. But
It's not a huge unit.
I want that sucker bad. In a
It's,
19.
You're betting. I don't know. I
The
think
way-
that's wrong because if you're betting your life to it, you want the best. Like if I mean, I know not everyone's in the budget for $1,000 EDC pistol, but if you're buying this package from Glock, you're buying it because you expect it to be the best. Time will tell if Aimpoint fixed the issues with the Acro P2 and this new Koa sight. Because
Well,
everyone
they'll
talks
make it
about
right.
the Aimpoint mask.
They come out all and they have problems with them. They'll make it right. But
Well,
I
I
wish
know.
that for that price, they also had the Glock enhanced duty trigger.
Glock doesn't consider that trigger to be a duty trigger.
I'm sad.
That's why they call it the Glock competition trigger. And it specifically on the packaging in a big orange band says that it's not NIJ certified. They don't recommend it in a duty gun. Not that I don't know people that are doing it anyways, and I have not heard of anyone sigging themselves in the balls with it, but oh, we got some folks rolling in. Dom VDG, Sophia B, what's up? Thanks for tuning in.
Justin B, what's your opinion on it, my dude? I don't know if we heard it from you yet.
Oh, I mean, as far as the trigger goes, I mean, I still carry it. I mean, I don't carry a dot either. I'm perfectly fine with my Glock with irons on it. I want a lot more rounds behind me before I start carrying it with a dot on it. But it's not something I'd immediately go out and snatch up, especially not at that price. It comes down a little. Secondhand market, definitely.
I mean, I spent $900 on
understand
my
that.
Sig 365 XL, and I didn't even get a dot with it.
XL or the X Macro?
The X Macro. What did I say?
Yeah.
XL.
Oh,
I know
it's
their
the
naming
X Macro.
convention has gotten
When it
17 plus 1.
when it first came out, like I got it like almost immediately, and I had to pay a premium for it. So I know they don't go for that now, but still, I still had to go buy a red dot, and that was $800. I wish I'd have never bought it, because like I got a hard on for this Glock 19 new thing that's coming out.
Trade that sucker off, bro.
Yeah, I probably
By the way,
should.
I talked to that dude with Black Diamond, and he's I think he's either gonna at minimum hop on the channel or he's gonna hook me up with a holster, so that's cool.
That's pretty sweet.
That's awesome.
But as far as Justin B with the dot, that's the only reason why I bought the dagger, just because it was the cheapest way at the time to get into a dot, and I also bought the cheapest dot that it was either between the Sealy or a Swamp Fox for the budget, just to try it. And
That's exactly what I have on mine.
yeah, and I wish I had more time behind it because I mostly dry fire practice right now, but I just got a security contract that I got to get ready for, so I got to go put some rounds down it, so I'm more confident with it. So I'll let y'all know how that goes, but it's just a gun show. It's nothing crazy. I've done a lot of them, so but yeah. So I'm gonna go get some rounds down this sucker because it's been a minute since Muffin Tops put real lead down. So
Well, when it comes to ammo capacity and dots on pistols, what's that guy's name? John something or other from ASP.
John Korea from Active Self Protection.
Yeah,
Heck yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Red
yeah.
Dawn.
That's it.
Yo, pimp out this video on your Discord for our homie Lawfully Armed.
He said something a while back that has always stuck with me. It says you don't get to choose the time or the location of the gunfight. The only thing you get to choose is what you bring with you. And why wouldn't you bring the most lethal and capable package that you possibly can? So, like, I remember when I got the 15 round magazines from my 43X. I was like, God damn, this gun feels twice as heavy. I almost rather carry the 10 round magazines. And then like that little, angel on my shoulder reminded me, you don't get to choose the time or the place. The only thing you get to choose is the weapon you bring with you. So would you rather
Yep.
have 10 or would you rather have 15? And
Well,
deal
I'd
with a
rather have
little bit
30, 31. That's what I want to carry.
and deal with a little bit of pants sagging and maybe yanking your pants up a few more times.
You need a core belt, bro. I don't have that problem. It ratchets to my body and nothing slips. I could bend over, crawl on the floor, all that shit. No problem.
Yeah, I had this idea for a product. It was going to be like underwear. They have like the rubberized something on the butt cheeks.
Mm.
That way your pants don't fall down.
Well, they make suspenders. If
Yeah,
you're old
that's a
enough, you
pain in the.
scratched all your ass off.
Have you ever worn suspenders? Have you ever come in 90
Yeah, I don't like
miles an
them.
hour? You ever come in 90 miles an hour hot to the bathroom and have suspenders on and you're like
I've worn coveralls now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I tried the suspenders. I even got the ones that are like you can actually wear under your shirt because of the way the clips are, and it's still a pain in the butt. I don't carry at 3 o'clock anymore either, so my pants don't fall down nearly as much.
Yeah. Well, deciding to carry a firearm is a lifestyle change. I mean, sometimes it takes some adaptation of your attire, how you dress, to dress around, like Muffin Top said, a more optimal gun. No, like you said, like a more optimal gun. The best piece of kit you can have on you. And that forces you to buy a different cut of pant, or maybe go up a pant size, or a quality belt, quality holster. All that stuff increases the likelihood that you'll carry it and the comfortability.
Lawfully pimped you out on his, or not Lawfully, Red Dawn pimped you out on his Discord.
I think there's a bigger curve when it comes to appendix carry because in order to do that like comfortably and the right way, there's a lot of things you got to do. Like you can't just buy the holster and throw it in your pants. If you want to do appendix like comfortably and right, there's like wedges, like
Yeah, you can do the wedges.
soft wedges
Yeah.
that you put on the bottom of the holster, so it makes the grip go in further, and then when you bend down or something, you don't have just the holster digging into your skin. There's actually like a little pillow thing there. That
Bro,
makes
you
a
Well,
just
big
need to
difference.
wear a wife beater. You just need an
it pads
undershirt.
your it pads your pubic bone, so it kind of helps keep
Yeah,
the grip of the gun torqued into you, and then it also torques it laterally, like around your body more, so it doesn't just the grip of the pistol isn't just flagging under your t-shirt. Everybody drink water. It's good for you. 100% of doctors recommend it. And if not, they're working for big soda.
big sugar.
yeah. The only thing I tried the appendix carry seriously, like for a couple of months, was my 43X, and I don't know. I don't like it.
You said that 43X my way. I'll appendix carry it for you because that is the appendix carry king.
I got my wife's first carrying that now, so that's good because I ran out and bought that as soon as it came out and paid a premium for that one. I'm never letting that go.
All right, I'm gonna mute for a minute. My trailer's ready.
Cool.
That's good. She's carrying it, man. That's a good little gun.
Yeah. They got a used Tiffany blue one that I might be picking up. I'll trade it with my wife. She'd have that one.
Ask if you can try the trigger before you buy that, because my experience with the factory Cerakoted guns has been that they assembly line those suckers and they overspray the frames bad, and so sometimes sometimes it's to the detriment of the trigger. Like
The silver slide.
All of those distributor Cerakoted guns, Glock doesn't Cerakote them. When you walk in, you find the Mukau or the Tiffany blue. Well, they can't call it Tiffany blue because trademark, but like the Robin Egg blue and like Silver Slide or vice versa, or the two shades of pink, purple and black, all that stuff. Those are done by like different distributors. They do that because they get X number of Henry Ford black Glocks and then decide, well, we need to like paint some of these so we can sell different SKUs. Because they're big enough that they're doing several hundred of them at a time. And so it makes the cost per gun only increase by, $40-$50. And so then you as the end consumer, you're only paying $50 or $60 more, maybe $70 more, which is less than what you could buy a black Glock and then go to somebody local to you and have them spray it.
Yeah, the magazines are an issue too. I got my wife one of the like cherry colored with like roses and stuff laser etched on it.
Yep.
And the magazines won't drop. The Glock mags won't drop, and the S15 mags won't drop because I guess the Cerakote up in the mag well.
That overspray causes some tolerance stack. It's tacky.
I've been running.
You gotta.
Sounds like you better trade that sucker off for reliability, Pat.
The way around it is you wrap your magazine in like 2 layers of painter's tape. You jam that sucker in there and you hit it with a heat gun. Get it nice and hot. And let it cool. And after that, they drop free.
Or you can just sit and insert and drop that mag like 500 times.
Put your knee up against the steering wheel and do that.
Or if you're handy with a whole bunch of real fine sandpaper, you can just lightly tone that back down. I wouldn't get into the plastic, but you can clear that channel out for the mag well or for the magazine body to clear. And you can see where the high spots are. And same with the trigger. I mean, you can sit and just dry fire it a whole bunch, but they usually come out of the box bone dry, where the Cerakote shop is slapping them back together, throw them back in the box. One of the things you can do to help for reliability and for durability of the Cerakote finish is go ahead and pull the gun down and intentionally overlube it in all the contact surfaces like the barrel hood. All the places that Glock tells you to put 1 drop of oil, go ahead and put several and smear it around and like towel off the excess. And then particularly like the ones that have the Cerakoted slides, go ahead and like hose down the slide and then kind of like almost micro polish it with like an old cotton t-shirt or a microfiber cloth. And that kind of helps dry Cerakote when they apply it like that. It leaves it kind of fuzzy feeling. It kind of has a fuzzy texture. If you go ahead and kind of buff that, it gets those high spots down. You almost imagine it like taste buds on your tongue, like little surfaces. If you go ahead and polish that down, it gets rid of some of that excess Cerakote. You'll find that it wipes off just with the oil and light pressure. But it'll keep it from flaking because otherwise the Cerakote's kind of scaly and you'll catch an edge and it'll like flake a burr.
Huh. Yeah, I've been running those PSA mags in it, and I haven't had a problem with it.
The Gen 1 ones had an issue. I hadn't had any issues with the Gen 2s.
Excuse me.
But Magpul
Still
makes
not
pretty good mags.
Yeah, those PSA magazines were hard to come by when I was looking for them. They were substantially cheaper than the S15 mags.
I didn't like the S15 because you had to buy their mag release stuff, so that kind of shied me away from it.
I would
And
prefer it because the Magpuls they don't have the aluminum feed lips. They're just polymer, and I've had some issues with, like, obviously since it's thinner, like Pro Mags, they go out of spec. They suck. Like ETS mags, I've had some pop out. Those just like some range mags for cheap. But I like the reinforced metal lips, so I would rather have the S mags over the polymer mags any day. And I prefer the swap out for the mag deal myself, but it'll also tear up a stock Glock mag, right?
Yeah, if you use the Shield Arms S15 mags, you've got to switch out for a metal mag release. You can still use your OEM polymer mags sparingly, but as you use them, it will whittle out that mag catch notch. The polymer loses over to the steel or aluminum mag catch.
yeah, the PSA ones I got are the metal and polymer ones. Yeah, it's got the polymer there.
Yeah, I've heard good things about those. I've got a local customer that's a college professor and used to be a pretty serious competitive shooter, and him and his oldest daughter both are rocking 48s with those mags. He had bought several like a daily deal one time when they had them in stock, and he had no issues with them. And she snagged half of them off of him, so he ordered like another 4 or 5. So last time I spoke to him, he said that other than 1 or 2 that had like the slightest bit of burr on the front of the steel, where the round feeds off the top of the mag into the feed ramp. Like he just had to kiss that with a diamond file a little bit, and he said they've been money.
Well, it's like anything you get from PSA. If you're not a little handy, you're not going to be happy with it.
This guy's handy, but
I got an idea for your next channel. I'll talk to you later on it, Lawfully. Your next video.
Yep.
But I think I got these when they had the package deal on them or whatever. It was like 7 or 10 of them. No, I like them.
PSA makes some good products. I'm not, just to reiterate from previous chats, I'm not opposed to them. I like their message and their intention, and I'm glad that they've been successful and generally make the consumer whole on a lemon product. But long game, if laws don't change from where they are now, every time you buy one of their products over competitors, and I know this is literally an example free market, but every time you buy a PSA product over somebody that they have copied or made a extremely comparable product to, eventually you're just going to end up with Megalocorp, Dropship, PSA, and that's going to be your only gun company. And we have seen in history several times now, just in the last few decades, big gun conglomerates end up going tits up, especially in this litigious society that we have now. Like, let a PSA product be used in a high profile murder, and let Soros's groups go after them, and you'll be out another big section of the gun market.
I've heard PSA are sharks when it comes to the business side of things too, like suing little
Oh, yeah.
companies and putting them out of business.
Yep, and they keep gobbling up people. Their holding corporation seems to either excitedly or strong-handedly buy controlling interest in other companies and then either absorbing them or snuffing them out.
Yeah, they're like fast track Walmart monopoly pacing. I mean, they're doing a good job on it. They're not the first ones to do it. They're just going at it very aggressively.
Well, no, I mean, the corporate raiders that ran Remington ran the Freedom Group. They did that. You know, they gobbled up all those gun companies. You know, like when they bought out Bushmaster the first time, and I think, I mean, it wasn't written in plain English, but I think there was kind of a word of mouth promise to the guy that, or to the family that owned Bushmaster, that when they bought them out, they would just, regardless of under what name they called it, they would continue to produce them there in Windham, Maine. And they didn't. They yanked the rug out from under them, moved them up to Ilion, and then closed them down. And that's why, as soon as the non-compete wore out, they started back up as um, Windham Weaponry, you know, the namesake of the town. But even they couldn't. I mean, that AR market is saturated. You've either got to be the bottom dollar, or you've got to be somebody bringing something extra to the table, like a air quote mil spec carbine. You can't compete in that space. It's saturated. And PSA's got a lot to do with streamlining and saturating that market. I don't understand how there's a Bear Creek when there's a PSA. Let alone all these others. Anyways, we're getting way off the topic of tonight's chat. Back to the Glock clones, especially now we got a few viewers. So the ones that I'm okay with are the Grit Grips frames. Grit Grips. You can find them at their website. You all have the internet at your hands. I think you can find it. They're making an excellent Gen 3 clone. A lot of the grip upgrades that people like, the double undercut trigger guard, more upright grip angle, really phenomenal grip texture that's like as grippy as you would want it if you were sweaty, muddy, bloody, but not so grippy that it like wears a bald spot on your love handle. The Ruger RXM, if you're wanting a factory gun, I can't tell you how many of those I have sold to guys now that said, I don't like Glocks. Like these were guys that appreciated what Glock did for the market space, but they were the Glocks don't point right for me. I hate Glocks. I don't have anything to do with Glocks. I've sold 2 or 3 to guys that have like something else that takes Glock mags, and it's like, hey, here's your out. You can own a Glock that doesn't say Glock anywhere on it. And maybe they didn't bite the first time, but they played with it a little, dry fired it, did a couple mock draw presentations, just started from low ready and punching out. And once or twice coming in and touching it, have taken it home and getting reports back from them that they run like a scalded dog. I mean, it's a solid product. If they'll just follow through on the promise of different grip colors and different grip sizes, which the colors is an obvious thing. I know they already exist. I've seen pictures of it, seen video of it. There's some riders that have already been privy to the OD green and flat dark earth grip frames in that compact size. Thank you, Rebel Spirit. But they've got to come out with like the full size for the guys with Sasquatch hands, and then they need to come out with a 26 size frame so we can have that 26L we never had. So I don't know about you guys, but I have more than once have like laid out the mark line, but just not committed to grip chopping a 19 because I've not wanted to mess up a perfectly good 19. in attempts to get that 26 size grip.
I'm perfectly happy with a 19 the way it sits. I don't need a 26 size grip.
Well, I am too, but that added utility of being able to take 26, 19, 17, all the way up to your, you know, MLK Boulevard extendos in one gun.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of slide difference between a 19 and a 26, but that little bit shorter grip can make it or break it in like a tighter shirt, or wanting to squeak it into maybe a pant pocket or something. Because a lot of times your pant pocket is not. It's not that it's not deep enough to stick a 19 in. It's just that once you drop it in, it turns into a raccoon trap trying to get it back out. Yeah, Shadow Systems. I forgot about them. They're good. I don't know why I
Glock
forgot about
19.
them.
Glock 19.
That's right. Rebel Black Shadow Systems. They've got the different back straps that change not only the girth but also kind of the angle of the presentation.
Yeah, all my handheld guns are 19s just because of the fact that, for the mags.
Oh, it's ubiquitous. Like that's the right one. If you're going to only have one, that's the right one.
Yeah.
And the less that they've been fucked with, the better. Like out of the box. I mean, you don't know anything till you know anything. Like it's Schrodinger's Glock when you pull it out of the box. But of any gun company that you like threw me a mag and then said go get it, it would be a Glock 19 out of the box, like just rock and roll. If the chips were down, because they'll run wet, they'll run dry, like they just run out of the box. You get something else, does it need to be lubed? Like the SIGs, they come packed in that peanut buttery lithium grease. Sometimes they're wet in the wrong places and dry in the right places, and Rebel, do you get it to the backstrap thing? You get it. You do the backstrap thing. Yeah. But grit grips, we'll throw Shadow Systems in there too, with the asterisk that I'm starting to get feedback from people that have multiple thousands of rounds on any one gun, and they're seeing weird issues. I think it probably comes down to just replacing the recoil spring, because they kind of took some liberties. They're a Gen 3 trigger parts compatible frame, but they're a Gen 4 dimension guide rod channel up on the front dust cover. They kind of took that liberty so that they could do the dual spring, guide rod spring or whatever, which I don't know that that's necessary on a 9mm. When Glock first introduced that double recoil spring, well, they've always had it on the subcompact. So the 26, 27, and 33 have always had it. And that was just a length of travel thing, trying to achieve that same slide function in that shorter linear path as the slide reciprocates over the magazine. Kind of keeps that slide from bottoming out. Did it on the frame I'm not using. I'll have to play with it. But yeah, grit grips, Shadow Systems, the Ruger RXM for the whole package. For a.
How about that Brownells?
I haven't dabbled with the Brownells frame. I guess I could look up a picture of it. I mostly came here tonight to get it off my chest about the Strike Industries, because they've got theirs. It's a fire control insert grip Glock clone, kind of like the RXM or whatever.
How is it?
Well, I mean, I haven't touched one, but just watching TFB TV's video of it today, me and this dude have been going back and forth commenting about it. But whoop, that was not what I wanted to click on. Let's see here. I'm trying to find the name of it because I already forgot. This is real similar. It's a Primary Arms exclusive right now. If you know where that place is. Anyways, they goofed because they went and did the Picatinny rail, the 1913 rail. And that's dumb. You don't need that because if you're buying into the Glock ecosystem, because of the Glock ecosystem, you want the Glock compatible rail. All of the major weapon lights you're going to put on one and then find a holster for are going to fit the Glock pattern rail. There's arguably no added value in having a Picatinny rail on your dust cover for a weapon light unless you're going to buy a Alibaba Wish Goober flashlight, and then you're not going to find a holster anyway. So you could have put it, I mean, you could have spent the same money and went ahead and been like Rebel and got into a CZ P10C or an M&P 2.0 or whatever, and got as good or better of a gun for the same money. Sorry, Pat, I'll get you in here. Let's see here. Welcome back. Shoot
Good
your
to be
verification
back.
footage.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's my biggest gripe about StreamYard is you can't click away from it for any reason.
Yeah, I was
Not getting
when I was
booted.
over on another tab. I was scared I was going to come back. Nobody else was talking, so I was scared when I was going to come back to StreamYard that it was going to be gone.
Well, I got mine open via Discord, and I just swiped up and I did a quick internet search for the holster that they were talking about in the chat, and it was here when I came back. I was surprised.
Which
Yeah,
holster?
I left to look at something. As long as you don't X out of it and you do like your tabs, you can go back on it if you're not gone too long.
Yeah.
Up that tier 1 holster with the sidecar.
Yeah, tier 1's good. I checked out Muffin Top's favorite, the rounded and the QVO. QVO, they want.
I like QVO the best. The rounded, I have to like get a crank left or right on it to get it to break the holster because it's so tight fitting. The QVO is duty grade, so I mean it is fast.
Yeah, exactly, Rebel. You're looking at that total cost of ownership, and that's most of the reason that you're getting in. Besides just the practicality, the ubiquity of the Glock pattern, whether it's a trademark Glock or it's a clone, you're getting into it because the ecosystem and the price, the total cost of ownership, like you said, the gun plus X number of mags plus the holster plus sights, any other required accessories. Of course, all these clones we're living in. I've said it before, but like the way that everyone makes a 1911 clone, and everyone just accepts them as 1911s, even though they're not Colt 1911s. They're just we're coming into that era for Glock now. We will reach a point.
Right. But what the Glock clones do have going for it is you can skip the 10 mags part because if you've been shooting Glock since Gen 3, you got mags. So that's the plus side of it, opposed to 1911, which if you're still a 1911 ride or die guy, the clones don't always accept the same mags for the 1911s. Sometimes they're proprietary to their manufacturer. But at the end of the day, just run a stock Glock.
never really thought about it, the topic of the problems with Glock clones. But I think the holster compatibility is the biggest one for me.
Yeah, I cannot run the dagger in a dedicated Glock holster. I had to get a special one just for the dagger.
Yep. And at that point, you could have had something else. I mean, if you were to go back in time and say, 13, yeah, like 13 years ago, what pushed me to Glock over the original M&P compact, which is really a subcompact size. It's like a Glock 26 size slide with a 12 round mag. What pushed me to the Gen 3 Glock more than anything was I already had time on the platform shooting friends that were older, and then knowing that I was going to be in the same ecosystem with them, like just the logistics of accessories, spare parts, mags, etc. That's what pushed me to Glock. It's not about Glock being the best ever. It's that they're the benchmark. Like they're good enough. They're just enough better than good enough, and they're so widespread. Coast to coast. All right, so like here locally, basically all of the police departments around us have switched to Walther PDPs, and we keep getting all of their trade-ins. And most of the cops come back and privately buy their old duty gun. Like every time we take in 20, 25, a lot of them have been like G45s. They trade those, like the agency trades them in for credit or whatever, and then gives the option to the individual officers or deputies to come back and buy theirs. And basically, they're getting them back at cost plus a transfer fee. And then whatever's left, we get to sell. Most of those guys are buying those back. So those guns are still out there. Like, they're just ubiquitous. And I know that a person's concerns for their everyday carry gun could be the same or different for when they're talking about prepping. From a prepping mindset, like maybe not all police officers are preppers, but there's a there and they know it. Like they're buying back that Glock, not just for the shadow box one day, saying, yeah, this is the first gun I carried or the last gun I carried or whatever. But they're buying them because they know everybody else has got Glocks.
Yeah, how I got on Glock, it wasn't duty or anything at the time, but it was prepping, and it was what is every, security and police department and sheriff's department around me in 4 counties carrying, and it was a Glock 23. I was working gun counter at Cabela's, so my first handgun purchase ever that wasn't secondhand was a Glock 23 for that reason.
Yeah.
I got sold by a magazine article probably 15 years ago. They did a bunch of durability testing on a Glock. They left it in a stream for 30 days, pulled it out, put ammo in it and shot it, ran it over with a truck, put ammo in it and shot it. Bunch of stuff like that. And from that point forward, I wanted a 19C. I wanted to compensate it. And then when I finally went to buy my first handgun ever, I actually went to a friend of mine told me to go to a range and rent a bunch of guns, see which ones I like the most. So I rented like 5 or 6 different brands and styles of handguns. And the one I liked most, fit my hand the best, was the Springfield XD. I'm like, man, that feels nice. And then I went over and bought a Glock 21. And the only non-Glock that the first non-Glock that I ever bought myself and didn't trade for was this SIG X Macro. That wasn't like a 22, you know, like a Ruger Mark IV or whatever.
Trade that B Shaw.
Yeah, I would like to do that, but I also bobbed the beaver tail on it so it didn't punch me in the gut. So that kind of hurts my value a little bit. I don't know if I should just go ahead and get another frame or what. It's only like, what, $75 for a what's that company that makes the frames? Dang it. Something Wilson Combat. I think Wilson Combat makes a grip frame for it, and it's only like $70 or $75, something like that.
They're always on sale.
Yeah, I thought about throwing one of those frames at it and then putting it up for sale, or I'll just take $75 off the price because I bobbed the beaver tail. I did a lot of research before I did that too, making sure that it was like nice and solid through there and it was able to be done, and came to the realization that it could be done. But when I finally did mine, there's a freaking air bubble in it.
Yeah. A lot of it's
for
logistics.
the longest time. Go ahead, sir.
A lot of it is logistics, especially from a prepping standpoint. You know, for a 1 or 2 off for concealed carry concerns, you know, just EDC stuff, maybe it's not a huge deal. Like, there are tons of people, hundreds of thousands of people that conceal carry that are not otherwise preppers or, you know, worried about the logistics beyond what's immediately on their person as far as sustainment for their guns, you know. And a lot of those guys are the same ones that come in and buy a new gun every couple weeks to couple months, you know, that are ever chasing that new, you know, and they can sit down and they can talk guns and they've got personal experience on a gun, but they're not intimately familiar or a great shooter with any one. You know, those guys aren't worried beyond 2 or 3 mags. You know, they don't have, you know, like they literally buy the gun that comes with 2, they might pick up the 3rd or 4th. It comes with 3, they might buy a 4th, come back later, buy a 5th. But they don't have 8 or 10 range mags and then at least 3 or 4 that they keep loaded, you know, that they shoot once or twice until they function and then keep them loaded with better life ammo. Right. Your Spear Gold Dots or your Hornady Critical Duty or HST.
Yeah, I for a long time I almost picked up, and I had the credit card on the table, Glock 19X. But you know what my problem with it was? Is I wanted to chop the grip down to a 19, just like asymmetrical preparedness did. And you know what I realized after that? And people, and Red Dawn's been running into it, but people have been running into those +2 extensions have been popping off. And that's when I decided I just want a stock 17 or 19 mag. And that is enough.
100%.
If I need another one, I'll fucking pull another one off my belt and put it in the damn gun.
Well, and there's an argument to be made. You know, I know everyone's worried about round count. Like, we've gotten into the arms race on round count for magazines. But really, that reload, at least that first reload, statistically, is for clearing a malfunction. It's not because the fight was extended and you needed another 15 or 17 rounds to finish the job. It's that you had a magazine-induced malfunction, you know, failure to feed, you know, or the devil's pocket lamp got in there and caused some issue. You know, and if the tap rack doesn't fix it the first time, you're dropping the mag, gassing it back up with that reload, and we'll sort all that out later. You know.
Yeah, I got a video. I don't know if I posted it, but I had a piece of corn in one of my spare mags, and it
Like
got
deer
in.
corn.
I had to pull 2 fucking rounds out to get that piece of corn out. And that was just a backup in my pocket whilst hunting, you know.
And I know that with the proliferation of the P365 and all of the new genre of micro subcompact little baby 1.5 stack guns that it has spawned in competition, I know that has become the rage the past few years because at the same time that those came along, they struck when the political iron was hot, and you saw a bunch of people run in and become concealed carriers, or you saw a bunch of people that already were concealed carriers that had single stack guns that all of a sudden, when they saw cities getting lit on fire, felt undergunned, but then also didn't feel compelled enough to wear a big boy gun. And so that's why they've been able to take and run with this. Like they get to make everybody feel like they're a secret agent carrying 12, 15, 17 rounds. No offense, Pat. You know, in a really small gun.
Right. And that's
But
one reason why.
like scientifically, objectively, those guns are not as reliable as a traditional duty size firearm.
Right.
Because the 17 rounds in a Glock 17 mag, or a full size M&P mag, or the 17 rounds in a CZ, we'll say, or they're even 19 round in the flush fit full size P10F.
Mm-hmm.
The volume, the void space inside of the box of that magazine is there to let dust and dirt and contaminants fall and still allow the round stack to roll. You know, because those casings roll like roller bearings. It still allows enough free space in there for those to roll and present up at the top. And these micro subcompact guns that SIG and others are designing to cram the most rounds in the smallest volume, they're just objectively not. They're not go to war guns, if you will. Like they're fine if they receive minimal environmental contamination, which 99% of people, that's not an issue if they blow the fuzz bunnies off their gun once in a while. But you can't shoot them hundreds or thousands of rounds in between cleanings and expect that reliable performance. Those guns really should be cleaned frequently. Not to the point that you're doing harm. You know, you're putting more wear on the gun cleaning it than shooting it. But you really ought to like do more than just tug a bore snake through it and stick it back in your holster.
I do want to put out one deal and why I minimum carry Glock 19. I carry Glock 19 size. It fits my hand the best. I will at minimum carry a 17 rounder with me stock Glock. Not because of necessarily the malfunction, but because of the increase in multiple offenders. And quite frankly, when you get 3 or 4 guys and you start squeezing, because that is your, just like a cop when they mag dump, man, that's your brain saying, hey man, me squeezing this trigger is keeping me alive. So that second mag, you put 3 to 4 rounds per person or whatever, you know, they're close to a rifle, you know, you get a guy before he can clear his low ready rifle on you with no optic. I'd rather take my chances with that in Minecraft, but I will never, ever, ever at this point in history, and probably further on in this country, until I see something big turnaround, I will not be rolling with anything less than 1 in the pipe, 15 in the mag, and a 17 rounder minimum. And you know, if it's no malfunction, all the better. If it malfunction, well, I'd rather have 17 than 15.
Well, like I live.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I believe thing in Florida. You know, some people might think it's a little bit excessive, but you know, I run around with 3 mags on my body. You know, 1 in there and two extras in my 17, just because, you know, Florida.
Yep. I like
Any,
to put one in my jacket pocket, and I got one in each door minimum in both vehicles, and then I got the one I always carry in my horizontal holster.
Yeah, I keep a Glock compatible PCC in a truck, so I got tons of mag. But on body is freaking. I love those I love my 17 mags.
Y'all consider rotating that ammo out that you're keeping in the vehicle because you're exposing it to huge temperature and humidity swings, as well as all that road vibration that changes the burn characteristics of your gunpowder.
That's yeah.
It's
I was
not
having
as much of
fun
a
with
concern as it would have been 60 years ago, but it is still a valid concern. If you're going to put all of that time and effort into being prepared, take just a little more and rotate that stuff out, maybe at least twice a year.
are you crazy? Have you seen the cost of that ammo?
Well, then
You
don't.
can't afford it,
I
but
mean,
don't carry it.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Jeez
I'm fucking with you.
Louise.
especially the folks that live in Florida that have,
Yeah.
I assume, extremely
Hot.
humid.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the South, it's not humid as much as it is hot for most of the summer, and then we get cold enough, and we have real bipolar weather here. Like we're entering our first false spring. It's supposed to be like in the 70s. I think it was up. It was
I
supposed to
love
be
your
up in the
face.
70s this coming weekend
I love
for a
your
couple of
face.
days, and then we'll turn around and have cold again. But oh, we lost him up on top. He said something mumbly, but anyways, temperature and humidity, all that affects burn characteristics. And if you've got nickel plated case ammo with primer sealant and stuff, that's less a concern. But it's still worth rotating that stuff out from time to time. Don't be that guy that like checks the box. I've literally seen an old dude that had a full stainless steel Kimber 1911 in his glove box, and I guess he finally thought about it. And when he pulled it out, it had rusted the barrel and slide together from him running his heat and his AC and stuff back and forth, all that temperature and humidity swing. The gun, sweated and just like there was a rust ring around the barrel bushing to where we ended up having to beat the slide open to get the live round out of it.
I got caught in we get the rainstorms down here, and I've I've had a couple that I had to kind of put to the side because they get rusted out from getting caught in rainstorms. And sitting in the truck and bad.
Yeah, and those guys that insist on leather holsters still, they don't see the utility in a molded dinosaur holster. They don't think about all the body slough and sweat salts and just the moisture that leather holds in. You got to let them air out once in a while. I mean, you want to be intentional about it because most of those self-inflicted gunshot wounds, those negligent discharges, happen when people are doing not fully intentional um, administrative gun handling. But once in a while, you've got to do some holster maintenance. Take the gun out of there, kind of look it out, make sure it's dry. Like if you do get caught out in a rainstorm or whatever, when you get home, if it's a holster that you can wash with a mild detergent, soapy water or whatever, do that, and then set it somewhere to dry. Let them air dry in front of a box fan or hit them with a hair dryer on low heat for a little while, and unload and wipe your gun off. Go ahead and make it dry on ammo. And go ahead and get some reps in dry fire practice and whatever. Knock the buzz off of it. Give it a
Yeah,
little TLC before you gas it back up and made it back up with its holster.
after the second one that I rusted out, I kind of learned that lesson.
Yeah. And as far as sweat goes, some people are just saltier than others. Like it's weird. There's some people that they can touch a blue, like a traditionally blued gun, and like leave a thumbprint of rust on it, just like it just flash rusts over. And then there are other people that can wear one around and sweat on it, just tucked under their nutsack all summer and not rusted. It's weird. Back to talking about the itty bitty guns. Sophia said some people have child-sized hands, so the small pews are where it's at. Yeah, to a degree. I mean, I know it makes carrying them for sure easier, but if there are little girls, and when I say little girls, I mean like 11, 12-year-old girls shooting a Glock 19, you can do it too. I'm not going to knock you in your lived experience, but there are definitely tons of grown men that come in with I got big hands, I got little hands. That doesn't fit me. They're just whatever. Either you can shoot or you can't. You don't say that about the size of your steering wheel. It's just, I mean, I know when you're the paying customer, you've got a preference, and that's why there are different gun companies that offer different products to accommodate that market. But at the end of the day, either you shoot or you can't. Like you've got to have competent training, and you've got to be a willing student. It's one of them people that the Army taught me how to shoot back in 1974, and you just haven't adapted your mindset since then, and you're closed off. If you're the old dog that can't be taught any new tricks, then there's nothing.
They're trying to shoot one-handed towards the target.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. When I initially took my concealed carry class, that first time, and I'm still friends with the instructor today. Um, my grandfather and I sat in with a group of people that were either from his church or were relatives of people from his church. So the class was made up of probably two or three guys old enough to walk with Jesus, and then a couple of guys that were like stereotypical, like elder boomers. And one of them had like a slicked up, air quote, custom built 1911. And then there was a couple of younger couples that were probably, I say younger couples, they were probably late 30s, early 40s at the time. And so I'm
Were
going to
there
guess that
any?
I was the only person there that like just turned 21. So I was the youngest person in the class at the time. And my grandfather might have been the oldest, maybe second oldest. And when we were doing the classwork portion, because the state mandates that it be between 6 and 7 hours at least. I think it's 6 and 8 hours, including the range time and the classwork time, filling out your paperwork, where they discuss all the legalities of in your home versus out in public and when you can, when you can't, all that. They had asked us while we were not on the range to leave the firearms secured in our vehicles. This was on private property. Turned out that at the end of the classwork, this old man had been sitting on this little pocket rocket the whole time, back pocket of his coveralls, a little 25 or 32. I never got close enough to see what it was for sure, but he couldn't shoot it worth a flip. So the instructor gave him a little 22 and called him on that. And then my grandfather called, but he shot 3 different sheets of paper. So in the time that it took him to shoot his one magazine, he changed targets for covering his sight picture. But that old boy with the custom 1911, he couldn't shoot for shit. Like we were just shooting 7 yards on a regular sheet of copy paper because they don't require the state sets a really low expectation. All that the instructor is signing off on their part is saying that you're safe and confident, not that you're like a bullseye shooter. That class is not a teach you how to shoot class. Although many of those instructors have their NRA cert and they're more than happy to tell you how they're qualified to teach you to shoot, and they are good. They're better than nothing for somebody just getting started. But the concealed carry class is not any certification of saying that you're a competent marksman. It's just that you're not a danger to yourself or anybody else in the process of getting it out and loading it and unloading it.
That's how Florida's is. When I took mine, it was classroom. Then we go downstairs and we shot, and all that was required was you had 2 mags. I think the first one was like 3 shots and a couple of shots in your second mag, and he just wanted to see you insert your first mag and then insert your second mag. Make sure that you can do that safely, and then signed off.
I just want to know, were there any photography vests in that class? That tells you everything you need to know.
No, there weren't any early GWAT photog vests. There were some guys wearing the like NRA concealed carry vests, that sort of thing. And the instructor, he's getting a little long in the tooth. We were talking last week. He's getting to be, I mean, he's in his 70s and he's ready to hang up his hat. His wife told him that he needed to stop doing that. She indicated that he wanted him to put that on the back burner and then do some traveling while they still had some good years. He's of above average health for a 70-year-old guy. He's still a volunteer firefighter, and he still works out some. He's got a I think Krav Maga or some martial arts background that he used to be pretty substantial.
That's a trick. You got to stay moving.
Yep. Motion is the lotion.
As soon as you sit down, that's when you start going to hell, or your body starts going to hell.
Yep. It's use it or lose it for sure.
Pennsylvania, all I had to do was fill out a piece of paper and pass a background check to get my concealed carry license.
Yeah, and that's part of it too with the packet. You get the instructor cover letter, which is just their signature certifying the date that you completed the course with their signature and their instructor number. And then you go get fingerprinted and you fill out a questionnaire that's essentially a copy and paste of a 4473. You submit all that in with your fee, and then you wait for them to issue the card. It's really not a big deal. Since then, they've come out with an enhanced that allows you to carry a couple places you couldn't before. And I think the legislature mostly passed that as a workaround for them because they weren't allowed to carry in and out of the Capitol without it. Besides state level non courthouse buildings, the only other places that enhanced license allows you to carry is into churches or bars if you have the owner or operator's permission. And those were already places that you could carry into if nobody knew any differently. So it didn't
The Maryland concealed carry is a lot different, though. I had to have 16 hours of classroom time and a live fire qualification. You had a time limitation and accuracy uh, uh, portion of it. So that's a pain in the butt.
That's kind of like how Hawaii's getting. They fought so hard for just to get it rolling, and then bad things started happening because the island didn't freaking have any 2A. So of course everything's going to be exaggerated when they start being used out there in the wild. And now in order to get your concealed carry out there, it's ridiculous and it's expensive. It requires a whole days of missing work and all these hours of stuff. And any gun you want to carry now, they've added it to where if you want to carry it, it goes on a list. I think California's like that too, that you have to go down and you have to redo the whole class over just for that one weapon.
Yeah, there's a lot of those states that begrudgingly have become um, shall issue states as opposed to may issue states due to all the Supreme Court rulings, and so they're still sandbagging as much as they can in between the filing fees and all the hoops they have you jump through, whether that be long course hour requirements or different marksmanship standards, making you go get a psych eval and so many witnesses, all of that stuff. That's all stuff just to sandbag the number of people that they'll issue a permit to, and ultimately those are still racist, or at least done to oppose minority gun ownership. Did I say majority? I meant minority. Minority gun ownership. They don't want armed minorities.
I was about to say that's what gun laws have been from the beginning, trying to
Oh
keep
yeah,
guns out of the hands
100%.
of the poor and the minorities.
Sophia said, "Wait, say that about Cali again." Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff I'd like to see in California, but I won't ever go there just because of the gun laws and stuff. I wouldn't want to give them 1 cent of tax revenue.
I was never able to go to the beach, but I've been in California a bunch, and pretty much anywhere you go that's not one of the cities, it's like the far southern part and like the central part where I went to get produce and stuff like that. It's gorgeous. But even in some of those smaller cities, you still have homeless people just chilling all over the
Yeah,
place. And the bigger the city, the worse it is.
well, it's because the bigger the city, the bigger the community outreach, bigger the
Yeah, don't feed the bears, right? Because the bears
pretty
become
much.
dependent on that food. If you pay for something, you get more of it. Just the way the universe works. And I know I always felt really, really bad, and we'd help people out every once in a while. My wife had this sixth sense. Like some people, she just felt like weren't out there for the right reasons, asking for money, and then somebody that's super clean and looks groomed, as opposed to somebody that's really, really dirty and ungroomed. So we would help people every once in a while until I met this one woman. She was sleeping on the corner on a sidewalk and just there all freaking day long. And we walked across the street to get some food. I bought some extra food and a giant bottle of water to give to her on the way back. And I gave her the food and I gave her the water, and she just goes, "Oh man, I wanted some soda." Like, what?
Beggars can't be choosers.
Like, you should say thank you for the big bottle of ice cold water in the middle of freaking California in the summertime.
Yeah.
You like that just rubbed me the wrong way, and like I look sideways at like all the homeless people after that. And you'd be surprised, even in the nicer areas, you just like go over one street and there'll be like a homeless encampment. I'll never forget. There's this one section as you're leaving, I think down on I-10 or down that way somewhere. But as you're leaving like the city portion, you look on the sides of the highway, and there are like, I don't know how to describe it other than tent mahal. It's not like a person living in a tent. There's like multiple tents and like hallways in between the tents.
Like an open air
Multiple.
convention center,
Yeah.
like a farmer's market of baked hippies.
Yeah.
That's how it was, how it was where I used to live. And it's wild. But there's this one really large camp, and like they kind of ran it like a whole little community. There was a guy that was like literally the mayor of the place. They would make sure all the kids go to school in the morning, and you know like they kept it clean and stuff. And it was what it was. But geez, it was huge. It was like several acres worth of it. Like, it was huge.
We've got professional homeless people here that like
There you go.
line all the major intersections, or like they'll wait outside on like the public easement, the sidewalk in front of like Walmart or Target or somewhere with their signs, and they'll panhandle. And then multiple times they've been recorded like walking a block or two over, or go to the other end of the parking lot, hop in their nicer than average car and drive off. And they sully it for the ones that are legitimately homeless, which most of the homeless we have around here are either drug addicts or mental health patients. I mean, that's the majority. Which I know that's at the end of the day, that's most all of them anywhere. That's how you end up in that predicament for the most part. But this time of year kind of thins out the presence of them. They all miraculously find somewhere warm to get.
Yeah, I noticed that about one of the Walmarts that was near where I used to live. And I noticed that there was this one car always parked there when this lady was out there with her kids. And I went past the car taking a different route one day, and I noticed that there was a guy sitting in there. So I guess the dude is just sitting in the car all day while his wife and his kids are standing out there panhandling all day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, like your car's freaking newer than mine. Like,
Sitting in a nice car in the air
for you,
conditioning,
it's, yeah,
scrolling TikTok
it's,
and
it's a
buying
hundred.
stuff off of eBay.
Yeah, it's 110 degrees outside, just sitting in the car chilling, and in the car nicer than mine. Like, this the last $5 I had out that window. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it ruins it because you want to do. Well, that's Oklahoma. They got a bunch of them. Like you say, you want to help people. Like you would give $3, $5 here or there, but to know that you're just feeding the bear, that they're going to be back there next week doing it.
First time anybody ever asked me for money, I was in Ocean City. Went down there on my anniversary. I had a big pocket full of cash, and I was all happy and everything. Like, man, I just need a couple bucks to put in my gas tank so I can get out of here and get back home. And I was all about it. I gave him like $20. I was feeling so good about myself, helping someone. And then like I think we went up to our hotel room and we came back down and went out to get something to eat. I saw that same freaking car at the liquor store. I was so pissed. Like I wanted to pull in
Yeah,
there and break their damn windows out.
you got them their fifth of hooch for the night.
Yeah, I was so mad.
Got them their liquid dinner. And that's, I mean, even if they're legitimately homeless, they're not just scam artists, that's always the concern. Is if you give them cash, they're going to use it to get their fix, not to better themselves. So you know, I strongly encourage everyone to use cash for their legitimate transactions. But if you're going to help out the homeless, volunteer your time or money or canned goods to a reputable charity. Don't don't give those panhandlers. Don't give them cash.
I'd much rather take them inside someplace and buy them dinner. I've done that at least 4 or 5 times.
You're a good man, Pat.
I saw a guy sitting there. He had like a drink, and I noticed he'd been there for several hours with that same drink. And I don't know how to feeling about it. And I kind of thought he was homeless. I spoke to him for a couple minutes, found out that he was. Man,
Hmm.
I said, let me get you lunch. And he's like, oh man, you don't got to do that. And I said, yes, I do. And he tried to order like a sandwich. I was like, no way, man. Get the good stuff. Get something for dinner too. Like that was the kind of guy you want to help out.
Oh, is that what it was? I was getting the alerts. Yeah, they're looking for him in the river.
Yeah, it's a bad deal.
What'd I miss?
Was the transponder off? The transponder had to be off. American Airlines plane ran into Glock.
Where's this? Down at the border?
Over, over
Washington
the Potomac,
Potomac.
CC.
Oh shit.
Yep. It's closer to your grid square than the border.
Yeah. I used to work down that way in Northern Virginia. I was all around that area.
That Black Hawk had to have the transponder off.
And it probably did if it was military aircraft.
Yeah, but a lot of times they run around
I
with
don't know. It just depends what
what they're
they
doing.
were doing. Yeah. And I'm not saying there's not something hinky there, but transponder or no transponder, I could see how it's easy to fuck that up because if you're ascending or descending to an airport runway, the helicopters they have a little more free range. Like they get served an altitude range that they stay in, but they climb and descend more freely than a fixed wing aircraft. Sometimes it comes down to just shit happens.
Yeah, there's people messing around with drones around airports, cause accidents. There's people shining lasers at airplanes and stuff. Happens all the time. Just I think the media chooses to focus on things at certain points, like all the train derailments right after East Palestine, Ohio. Like, was there a rash of train derailments, or do train derailments just happen all the time, and you just never hear about it unless you're local to it?
Right. Everyone just got honed in on it, and it became
Yeah,
Hot.
the topic of the week.
and the crime du jour that they decide to focus on at one point or another, like whether it's shootings or robberies or something, depending on what they choose to cover, you're like, oh my god, like robbery is through the roof. When actually it's down a little bit. They just decided to focus on it for some reason, probably some nefarious political reason.
As it always is.
I think it's hilarious how they manipulate facts depending on what the story they want to push. Because when you want a sheer volume of gun violence, they include gang violence in inner cities. Like there was 800 mass shootings so far this year. Like, yeah, you're including gang violence. But then when they want to push that it's like a Caucasian male problem, and they use the statistics, they exclude the gang violence in inner cities. It's like, oh, all these mass shootings are white males.
It's pushing a narrative, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's pushing a narrative.
And it's come to the point where you can kind of decode their bullshit. Like if they don't mention the race of the shooter, you know it's not a white person. I don't mean that in any derogatory way. I bear no ill will towards anyone because of their skin color. Just it is what it is, and you observe what you see. You know.
Yep.
And it's a miracle I didn't grow up to be a racist, because my stepdad is a raging N-word racist. And I grew up close to Thurmont, which is where the Ku Klux Klan had their main headquarters for the longest time.
If you haven't heard of Harrison, Arkansas, that's where my paternal grandfather was born and raised, and he never had anything. I never heard him say a derogatory thing. He was a public educator for the entirety of his adult life, and so I don't think he had a racist bone in his body. Although he was in the National Guard at the time that Governor Faubus stood up against the 101st Airborne, they refused to desegregate the schools, so he was in the Guard at that time and got activated to go to Little Rock and oppose the 101st Airborne. And growing up, all of his stories talking about that period in time, he acted like it was a big joke. He said when they got activated, everyone had to do like a medical eval and all that. He said there were some guys that could pee and some guys that couldn't pee, so there were guys peeing for each other's urinalysis. And he said, I swear the guys that were drawing blood were like mess cooks the day before, because they were just sticking you with a needle and then letting you like hold the beaker and just letting it free bleed into the vial. And he said it was just all a farce. None of them thought they were going to fire on their fellow countrymen over all that. Anyways, but Harrison, Arkansas has a reputation to this day of being like the most racist place in Arkansas. Like there are a few of them that still live there that are like committed to the cause. Like they've got their own radio station and they buy billboards coming in and out of town. You know, with the like "Keep America White" and
I'm
we
surprised
don't have any we don't have any dark problems here, that sort of thing. They'll put it on a billboard. It's beautiful country. It's right up in the Ozark Mountains. The little bit of it that reaches down into Arkansas from Missouri. It's like north central Arkansas. It's beautiful. What's funny is the crow flies. It's not very far away from Eureka Springs, which is like the gayest town in Arkansas. Like it's like gay Bohemia. It's a tourist site, but it's like totally captivated. Like I had to go there for a wedding last summer, and like every third building's got a gay pride flag. It's the only time that I've been in Arkansas carrying a gun and felt like out of place. The little motel that we stayed at was probably owned by a gay couple, because they had a like about us sign at the lobby check-in that doubled as a bar, and they had a no gun sign on the door. And I missed it the first time going in, just not used to seeing that. But I caught it the second time, so I waited outside and let her get the room key.
Well, luckily, most of those no gun signs are Berettas, and nobody carries a
Yeah,
Beretta anymore, so we're fine.
exactly. And what they don't know won't hurt them. And the I don't want to out myself. The venue of the wedding, I didn't even concern myself there. I just what they didn't know didn't hurt them. That's where the little pocket rockets come into play. It beats a swift kick in the nuts and a strong word. Just pocket carry the LCP, and that's a spare mag in your breast pocket. Red Dawn asked a question here. He says, "What do you guys think about low power variable optics? And what are your favorites if you have any experience with them?" So I really like the Vortex Strike Equal 1-8 with the AR-BDC-3 reticle, particularly the first focal plane, because that way all the ballistic data in the reticle is true regardless of magnification. All of your second focal plane LPVOs, um, if they have any sort of BDC in them, they're only true on either 1X or usually the top. They're either true on the top end or the bottom end of the magnification. And so that takes that ranging and BDC out of consideration. But I have not gotten to play with any of the super high end stuff because, like I said before, people in Arkansas are poor. So I haven't gotten to play with like the EOTech Voodoos or a whole lot in the way of the VCOGs and stuff, any of the Tridgecom products, let alone any of the Schmittenbenders or not US Optics, but what's the other? Help me out, Red Dawn. I know you know. Night Force. I haven't got to play with Night Force like with their attackers and stuff. Because their dealer price, like if you called them up, like one time we had a police department that wanted to get um, 5 or 6 for SWAT team. And so he called them, the boss man called him up and said, "Hey, here's the deal. I got this police purchase order. What's the best y'all can do on those?" And they gave him a number, and he called the contact at the PD back and ran him the number, and he was like, "Well, that's crazy. I can buy them online for that." He's like, "No, you can't." He said, "Yeah, I can. Look." And so he looked. Sure enough, that was the online price. So he called him back, and the account representative at Night Force was like, "That's the best you can get it for. Now, if you want to buy 500 of them, the price might be better." But there's price tiers to all that. So if you're not set up, and that's why there's not an opportunity for a lot of local places to do more in the way of the cool guy shit or like police supply, because there's those retail pathways, and if you're not part of that, and almost if you're not like an entrenched legacy, dealer, it's hard to break into any of that stuff.
Yeah, and even then, even it costs money every year just to be a part of that circle too. You got minimal purchase orders with them, and it gets really expensive really quick with a lot of those guys.
You don't get allocated any of the new guns and stuff like that when they first come out either.
Usually you can shake them for one or two. What you do is you do business with multiple distributors, and you try and do enough business with all of them to kind of have a good reputation with your sales rep. A lot of times, depending on the brand, where you know they do this thing where you like it's a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours thing. Like if you take 2 or 3 like stale items that they're having trouble getting out from under, usually that'll get them to shake loose to something that you do want. Like if you buy 3 or 4 getting long in the tooth SIGs or Rugers or something, then they'll shake loose of that 1 or 2 of those new ones that you've got demand for,
Yeah, I understand in a business sense that's kind of what they need to do, but it just sucks.
It does. It does. But it's how it goes. And that's normally like first of the year and end of the year stuff because first of the year is full of, all sorts of new possibilities, along with the, I'm not sure what the sales forecast is going to be. And so early in the year, you're like, well, we can sell two of anything. So you kind of, you bite, you know, and then you get to the end of the year, and you've pumped the brakes, like you're not trying to get too heavy on merchandise because you don't want to pay capital gains on it. But you need one or two because you're going to have people looking for last minute Christmas gifts, or that guy's going to get that gift card for Christmas, and he's going to come burning a hole in his pocket. And if you don't have it, then he's going to pay the same or a little more, a little less to get it online, and then come pick it up as a transfer. And I know for a lot of people, I'm not asking people to like voluntarily like subsidize their local gun shop by choosing to pay 10 or 15% more for something just for the feel good of buying it local. But when you're talking $20, $30, like you're doing infinite good to keep your local gun shop in business buying the same gun locally that you're going to come pick it up and do a transfer at anyways. Like just buy it from them, give them the shot to sell it to you, than to buy it from Grab a Gun or Buds or Palmetto or wherever. You're keeping that money local in your community.
Well, when
And if
my
you,
when my guys went up to, went up $15 on transfers I'm in there, once a month or once every couple of months for the last couple of years, you know, I'm like, really? You guys are just gonna stick me out of the blue like that when I can just go down to my gun club that I pay for every year and do it for a few bucks. Like, sorry to you,
Yeah,
customer.
I see that. I see that side of it too. Like I know of some pawn shops in the area that offer to do it for $1 or $5 or whatever, and they're just trying to get people in the door.
Uh,
And I
well,
get it.
well, I mean, and it went up from like $25 and went up like $15, and I'm paying big dollars for a transfer. When you see me all the time, like I get it, but I don't. And as far as the LVPO things go, I don't know much about them. All I know is that don't get your eye too fucking close.
Red Dawn, the EMP concerns removed. I'm Red Dot and Magnifier. That's I'm Team Red Dot Magnifier on a general purpose rifle. Now, if I were setting up an 18 or 20-inch like dedicated medium range gun, Mark 12 ish thing, then I would go LPVO. But I'm Team Red Dot and Magnifier.
I have three. I have two primary arms. One's a 1-6. The other one I think is a 1-10. And I also have a Vortex. The primary arms, they both have the ACSS. Is that what it's called? The
Yeah.
ballistic drop in them. And the Vortex has some other kind of ballistic drop calculator in it. The Vortex is illumination is brighter. I would say borderline, not quite red dot bright, but brighter. The primary arms aren't as bright as the Vortex illumination, even on the highest settings. So you're not like technically red dot bright, but the ACSS reticle is what sold me on the primary arms LPVOs. And I think there's still value in piggybacking a red dot on top of your LPVO Because like you said, my 1-6 is a second focal plane, so that reticle never changes size, which is nicer on 1X. Or no. Yeah, on 1X, the first focal plane reticle is very, very small. But on the second focal plane, it's the same size, so it's a lot easier, a lot quicker to pick up. But
Yep.
but like you said, the ballistic drop only works on the highest magnification, and not, if you just crank it over really fast and don't go all the way, like if you're just a little bit off, that could make a big difference at distance. Whereas the first focal plane, yeah, the reticle gets really, really small on 1X, but it's that drop is consistent all the way through the magnification range, and I think each has their place. For a little bit of quicker acquisition, maybe a second focal plane, but for more accuracy out the distance, probably first focal plane. And the reason I say still have a red dot piggyback, even if you have a 1X LPVO, is I like to leave the LPVO on the higher magnification setting and to be able to transition between 1X and 6X just by moving my head a little bit. You don't have to break your grip on the weapon. You don't have to manipulate it at all. I think that's the way to go. I think Muffin Top said he had like a 2.5 to something or other. A red dot's still a good idea, or a good idea on that one, even if you have the 1X. And I posted a YouTube video in Muffin's Discord a while back. It was a video about a competition they do out in Ohio. And the guys do at the very, very end, he does a comparison of how quick people are with red dots and magnifiers versus LPVOs. And the red dot does win out when it's a super close-up shot. But as soon as you put any distance to it, the LPVOs far, far outshine the red dots with magnifiers. And he even does like a head-to-head where he puts two competitors up against each other, one shooting a red dot magnifier and one shooting an LPVO. Like, you start from the beep to the first hit, and the guys with the LPVOs, if there's any distance at all, always beat the red dot guys. And he even compared the same shooter, like from one year to the next. That one year they ran a red dot, the next year they ran a LPVO, and the guy beat himself with an LPVO. So why not have the best of both worlds? LPVO with either offset red dot or a piggyback red dot, whichever is more comfortable to you.
All valid data points. I just, in my self-imposed ROE, rules of engagement, I'm not going to shoot at anybody or anything that I couldn't identify pretty positively with the naked eye. So I feel like the 3X that I've got is enough to
If
let me
somebody
be
starts
sure.
shooting at you from 300 yards, and I've got an identified LPVO, and you're shooting a red dot with a 3X, I'm going to win that engagement.
Well, if you've walked into an ambush and been shot at first, you're already losing the engagement. I mean, at that point, you're either going to break contact or overmatch. So, and I, as an individual, would choose to vacate that fight. If you're talking small unit tactics, the situation dictates, what your objective for the day is, what, you know, your reason for being there and why their reason for shooting at you, all that would all play have it all factor into the decision making at the time. But
It's
and maybe
that's the
that's where
worst
the
part.
LVPO is better, is for setting up ambushes or whatever. It extends that effective fire for the ambush. I'm not saying that I wouldn't want one or two people in my crew, if you will, to have some more magnification. But for me, like humping around and knowing that my area of operation is either going to be a mix of suburban, urban with thick woods in between, like that extra magnification is not going to do a whole lot for you most of the time. I mean, you're still going to be able to make the same torso shots you were going to make with a 6X or 8X LPVO. Like if you could see them anyways, you're going to be able to do that with a dot and a 3X. And that one
Yeah,
way range.
I kind of view the LPVO like a multi-tool. Like if you have a knife that's also a saw, it's not a great knife or a great saw, but situations it's better than carrying a knife and a saw.
And that's a lot of it for me, is the carrying it around. You know, with the dot and magnifier combo, if for whatever reason I don't want the magnifier, I can strip that puppy off there, stow it in a GP pouch or throw it back in my pack and take 10 ounces off the rifle, and that's only about a half a pound, but that adds up. The LPVO is heavy all the time, even with a light mount. I know Muffin Top likes it for the astigmatism concern and the EMP concern. That if electronics get fried, you still have the etched reticle in a prism or a LVPO.
Yeah, and if you're concerned
LPVO.
about that, if you're concerned about that with your red dot, like the battery's running out or EMP, there's always the prism optics. You don't give up much in the way, like they're heavier than a red dot, but not as heavy as a LPVO. And there you have an etched reticle.
Some of those, the 1X ones are not bad. They're more comparable to a dot. But man, you get into those 3, 5, 6 power prisms, and they're usually pretty beefy.
Yeah, that's basically an ACOG then.
Well, they are. I mean, that's literally what an ACOG is. But yeah, they're pretty chunky.
Yeah, I have the primary arms Cyclops 1X. I actually wanted the 3X, but ordered the 1X by accident, and I'm sort of happy that I did. But I have the Stig, so
Yeah,
I'm able to set that diopter to my eye and get a nice clear view. But the trade off there is I can't get a magnifier behind that to focus because I've got it so out of focus to look good to my eyeball. Like I can't make it look good with my eyeball and then flip the magnifier over and look good also. One of them is always blurry no matter what I do.
yeah, I've got a little bit of an astigmatism in both eyes. The magnifier kind of helps solve that too. I think that's the biggest confidence boost. It's is that been able to adjust the diopter. I'm able to tune that astigmatism out, and it really crisps up that dot. Well, for me, it's dot and circle, the Holosun 515 GMGR. Um, and they're supposed to be launching a 6X. It's been listed as coming soon since, I don't know, this time last year. They first teased it at EWA in Germany the summer before last, And the one that they showed off there had like a recliner chair type mount. Like it had like four legs that it just laid back in line with the buffer tube. But then the one that they showed off at SHOT Show last year was a flip to side. And this year I've not seen any coverage of it, so I don't know if that means that they've shelved that or bag burnered it in favor of all the new dot and um, lamb units that they're launching. But if that 6X kind of stays in line with their 3X as far as eye relief and weight, that might be the true happy compromise. Of course, you've got that 1X. Have you tried running a magnifier in line with it? So you can run magnifiers in line with the 1X prism sights, and it works.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Okay.
That's what I was saying about the. If I flip the magnifier out of the way and I make the reticle clear on the Cyclops, and then I flip the magnifier back, there's no way to get it a clear sight picture. It's fuzzy. And if I adjust the diopter on the Cyclops to make it not fuzzy with the magnifier, then when I flip the magnifier out of the way, the reticle's fuzzy. There's just no winning with that combination. Not with my eyes, anyway.
Sounds like you've got to tune both diopters while they're in line with each other. You've almost got to play.
I have to compromise. I have to compromise. They both have to be just a little fuzzy. And with the 1X prism and the ballistic reticle that's in it, it's got the ACSS reticle in it also. With that 1X, it's very tiny. So if it's fuzzy, it's basically a red dot. You don't get any benefits from those ballistic drop stadia or whatever they're called. And in line with the chat, having a beef with Glock clones, I have a beef with magnifiers. What the hell is in a magnifier that makes it cost as much as a scope? Like, there's no reticle, there's no nothing. It's just a couple of lenses. Why is a magnifier $500, $600, $800? That's ridiculous.
Well, the really high dollar ones are high dollar because of the brand name that they say on them. So they say EOTech or Aimpoint.
Yeah, it's $100 for the scope and $600 for the label.
But you're literally getting optic quality glass. Like you're buying a scope, you're just buying a scope that doesn't have crosshairs set in the middle of it. So I mean, you are effectively buying a ostensibly duty rated hardened housing high quality optics grade scope, glass.
Yeah, I can see that, but it just doesn't feel right.
Yep. I'm not trying to sound like I've suck Holliston off because I was opposed to them when they first kind of came along. They were still kind of a Amazon brand until we got some hands on with them. But I've been impressed. I've just got the standard H3X. Let's see, Holliston Magnifier 3 H3 MX, whatever. Just the standard, sub 200 magnifier. Because it's got the same eye relief as the titanium model that's got a shorter unit. So you can use that added length to your advantage because it, if you were to put them both on the same notch on your upper receiver, because the housing of the standard one is about a ½ inch longer, it gets your eye relief. It sets that eye relief back a little further.
I can see that.
So you're still able to tuck it in front of like a M-bus sight. And I already run my stocks a little shorter anyways, but I just go ahead and run it in another notch or two shorter and kind of have a somewhat compressed length of pull. and then have no trouble getting like full eye relief off of it, like plenty of it. I can come back another notch if I wanted to, or another position on the buttstock. So plus that serves as a reference point. Like if I yank it off, I can't mess up. I just put it to the rear most available slot, and it locks in. So I get the same repeat. But
You have a QD mount on your magnifier?
yeah, it's the one that comes with a little throw lever with a locking tooth. And I will say they're not I haven't noticed any issues with the screw rotating, it becoming wobbly or whatever, which even if it backed off a little bit, it's not like a huge detriment on the magnifier because the dot is still zeroed. Like the minute amount of optical shift is not going to like make or break you. But my dot has the same mount, and that would be the one thing I would change about it. I'm glad to see with that new line of budget optics they're coming out with that they've just gone to a more robust tower with a thumb screw. I think that's the right move from them. Like specify a torque spec and just put a big knotty thumb screw on there and be done with it. The big hex nut. It's going to be cheaper for them to produce, and for set it and forget it, folks. That's going to be better. Like just degrease the threads, put some thread locker on there, torque it to the specified torque, mark it with a paint pen so you can visually inspect periodically and see if you've lost torque on the bolt, and then you don't have to think about it ever again.
You have a 3x Vortex magnifier. I got it years ago as a combo with a red dot and the magnifier together.
Yeah,
I bought it used, but got them both for $150.
you did pretty good. Got a lifetime warranty.
That
That Crossfire
way,
just got that dang.
yeah, that's what it was, a Crossfire.
It's got that dang 5 MOA dot in there.
Maybe that's why I'm butthurt when I try and go get a magnifier for something else. And like, I got a dot and a magnifier for $150, and you want $400 for a freaking magnifier? Give me a break. I tried I have that Vortex magnifier behind an older EOTech, and you were saying about how the magnifier clears things up. That makes a huge difference. Because the EOTech looks like a mess to my eyes, but as soon as I throw that magnifier behind it, it clears up and looks real nice. I guess that's what normal people see.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, the EOTech reticles just look like,
A bunch of dots.
yeah, I was going to say it looks like radio waves if they were put into the color spectrum. But yeah, it looks like a holograph. I mean, they're literally holographic sights. So it looks like a shiny Pokemon card. Like it's just a bunch of fuzzy dots making up a ring.
Yeah.
So you got to constantly remind yourself just with any of the red dot sights, whether they be holographic or LED, you've got to remind yourself to stay target focused, not dot focused. If you shift your focus to the dot, that exacerbates that flare effect of the astigmatism. You got to stay target focused.
Yeah, and keeping the brightness down helps too.
It does, and that's why aim point will include a black cap, flip cap for the front with the clear on the rear. Like I've got an aim point pro that was my go-to, and currently it's sitting off of a gun in hopes that if there were an EMP, it would survive in the insulated metal case that it's in. But they give you that black cap so that you can run it on lower brightness, and then that way, kind of like the old pirate patch, if you're coming in or out of a light place to a dark place, or vice versa, like if you're keeping both eyes open, that bending aiming concept, your eye will still triangulate it and produce the dot whether you're against a light or a dark background. But like that way, if you're out of doors, you run it just as bright as you need it with the cap down, and then you bust into a house or something that's dark. It'll be plenty bright. But we're just over 2 hours. It's kind of peeling off, and I'm kind of interested to go see what the news is saying about this airplane crash. So
let me address what Red Dawn said there real quick before we sign off. They're saying about
okay.
the stadia lines on the 1X microprism only measuring distance. Well, the width of them is the shoulders of a person. So when you hold it on the 200-yard line,
They're for
and it matches.
They're for ranging a person.
Yeah, but that's also your aiming point. Like if you line up the shoulders and they match, you pull the trigger because that's your hold. Some of the ACSS have a like a scale off to the side where you can measure the height of a person. And I think some of the other ones you can use it measure the height of a person off the bottom of the reticle. I don't know. I have to read the book again, but I'm pretty sure you're measuring the shoulder width of a human-sized target, and if it matches, that's also your hold, because that's also the 200 or the 300-yard line, whatever it's called.
Right. Yeah, it's your BDC and your range estimation. Of course, with like the circle dot reticles, like in an EOTech or the Holosuns, they're 68 or 65 MOA. It's kind of a 6 to 1, half dozen to another. You're using that to range a guy too, because at 100 yards or 100 meters, a dude will fit. An average height fellow, 5'5" fellow will fit inside of that circle, top to bottom. And then at 2, he fits from the center dot. He fits inside the radius, and then about 3 fits halfway through there. So you could, as far as most people could remotely accurately fire on a full size human, you've got enough ranging estimation just in that simple circle and dot reticle. But we'll probably have to save that for another chat sometime.
Right.
It'd be cool to geek out on all that.
That's you can also lead using the circle too, from what I understand.
Correct.
Like a person at running speed at a certain distance.
Yep, and you can use, like for CQB, you can use the bottom of that ring to compensate for height over bore, so that in that hypothetical hostage scenario, like if you were gonna T-zone a dude holding your loved one or whatever hostage, you take that into account so you don't shoot them.
Yeah, that's a bitch. The pistol course I took, we did one of those things where there was, the target was behind a quote unquote hostage. I shot the hostage like 3 times. Mainly because my rear, my rear sight loosened up and I was hitting way to the left. And you had to run like 100 yards every time you hit the hostage. They made you run down to 100 yards and touch this fence post and then run back and start over again. So that was fun.
So you were smoked by the end of it.
Oh yeah, I was done.
Justin B., do you have any closing words, any final arguments before we rest the case?
Nope. Just was learning a little bit more about reticles, that's all.
All right, then. I guess we'll call this
Just
one a night.
remember, 2 is 1, 1 is none, 3 is for me. And if you've got 4, what's one more?
There we go. Drink water, move more, eat less, and kiss your loved ones.
I agree with
Lawfully
Have a good
Armor
night.
Chat signing out.